But it just like when he died, man, it went from I had fittings. When my little brother died, I just was like, fuck everybody. I was like, man, like I'm talking to my brother real __. Bro, like, since my little brother been dead, I never went to his gravesite. I paid for the whole front. I paid for everything. I never saw him, and I never saw him in his cast. I never saw him I never went to his gravesite. I sent flowers. I make sure __, look neat at all times. I never went to it, bro, because it's just something I got. It's something I got to wake up and just one day like I really do it. You feel what I'm saying? Blac Youngsta, one of Memphis's most feared, most loyal, and most misunderstood figures in rap, is sliding for his brothers. Not just one, not just two, 3 brothers. 3 funerals. 3 moments that broke something deep inside a man who was already built from pain. And if you've noticed that Youngsta ain't been the same on the internet, ain't been the same in interviews, ain't been dropping music like he used to, this right here's a reason why. Something changed in him the day he lost his last brother. Something that no amount of money, no amount of fame, and no amount of loyalty to the label could ever fix. And today, we're going into the full story. All 3 losses, the men behind the names, what really went down each time, how Youngsta responded publicly and privately, and what he's been doing in the aftermath. Because this story deserves more than a headline. It deserves the full picture, and that's exactly what we're about to give you all. Yo, what's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we go deep. Not surface level, not Twitter headlines. We break everything all the way down so you can actually understand what these artists are living through behind the music, behind the performances, behind the persona. And today, the story we're telling is one of the most tragic stories in hip-hop that doesn't get nearly enough attention. We're talking about Blac Youngsta, born Sammy Marquez Benson, a man who came out of the heart of South Memphis with nothing but hunger, loyalty, and his brothers by his side. But piece by piece, the streets took them from him. All 3 of them. And every single time, Youngsta had to dig deep and figure out how to keep going when the people he was going for were no longer here. So stay with me all the way through this one, because by the time we get to the end, you're going to understand why this man is going quiet, and honestly, you're going to respect it. Let's get into it. Now, before we go any further, let's make sure everybody's on the same page about who Blac Youngsta actually is, because not everybody grew up watching this man come up from nothing. And you need that full context to really feel the weight of everything we're about to talk about. Sammy Benson was born and raised in South Memphis, Tennessee, one of the most historically underserved and economically neglected neighborhoods in the entire country. We're talking about a part of the city where the poverty rate consistently runs high, where opportunity is scarce, and where the consequences of that scarcity show up as violence in the streets on a daily basis. This is a place where violence isn't something you read about in a news article. It's something you grow up, navigating every single day of your life. It shapes how you move, who you trust, who you love, and how tightly you hold on to the few people who actually got your back no matter what. Youngsta didn't come from money. He didn't come from connections. He didn't have industry uncles or family in the business or any of those built-in advantages that a lot of artists benefit from. He came from the streets of South Memphis, and he used every single ounce of what those streets taught him to grind his way into the music industry through sheer will and raw authenticity. By the time he linked up with Yo Gotti's CMG label and started putting out projects, he was already one of the most genuine voices in Memphis rap. Raw, unfiltered, unapologetically himself, and deeply connected to the community he came from. Hits like Hip Hop or Booty and his collaborative work with Moneybagg Yo built him a real fan base. Not just people who streamed his music passively, people who genuinely felt like they knew this man, like he was their cousin, their homebo, somebody from the neighborhood who actually made it and kept it real about where he came from instead of running from it. But here's where it gets real. Behind every song, behind every performance, behind every flex on social media, this man was quietly carrying losses that would have destroyed most people from the inside out. Because while Youngsta was building a career and stacking wins publicly, the streets that made him were simultaneously taking away the people that mattered most to him privately. And it didn't happen once. It happened 3 times. 3 brothers gone in less than a decade. And that is the story that the streaming numbers and the features and the label deals will never tell you. And here's something else worth understanding about the culture Youngsta came from. Because this matters when you're trying to make sense of how he's processed everything that happened to him in South Memphis and really in a lot of these tight-knit communities across the South. Family is everything, not just in the sentimental sense of the word. Family is your foundation, your security system, your identity. Your brothers aren't just people you grew up with. They are extensions of who you are. When Youngsta talks about his brothers, he's not talking about distant relatives. He's talking about the people who were there before any of this. Before CMG, before the deals and the tours and the kind of shield against the world. His brothers knew Sammy Benson before Blac Youngsta existed. And that makes losing them a different kind of loss than most grief that gets talked about publicly. Because you're not just losing a person, you're losing a witness to who you were before the world got involved. You're losing someone who knew the real you, the unpolished you, the version of you that existed before you had to perform strength every single day just to keep the industry and the streets and the fans satisfied. That is irreplaceable. And losing it 3 times. That leaves a mark that no therapist, no studio session, no amount of success can fully erase. Now, hold up before you all start thinking this is just another rapper tragedy story, because it is so much more than that. What makes Blac Youngsta's situation different? What makes it hit different on a whole other level is a pattern, the relentlessness of it. The way Loss kept finding him no matter how far he got from the block, no matter how much he built, no matter how hard he tried to protect and provide for the people around him. And most importantly, it's about what those losses collectively did to him as a man over time. How they changed him, how they quieted him, how they reshaped his entire relationship with the world, with the public, and with himself. Let's break it all the way down. Starting from the very beginning, November 2016, Blac Youngsta is in the middle of one of the biggest moments of his career up to that point. His name is ringing across Memphis and starting to spread beyond. He's got real momentum. He's got the streets behind him. He's got the label behind him. And it genuinely looks like everything he grinded for is finally clicking into place the way he always knew it would if he kept going. But while all of that is happening on the outside, while the world is watching him rise, the hood back home doesn't stop for anybody's success. The block doesn't pause because you made it. And in November of 2016, the streets reached up and took his little brother Ronnie B from him. Now, here's something critically important about Ronnie B that a lot of people don't know. And this is a detail that makes his death hit so much harder once you understand the full picture. According to Blac Youngsta himself, speaking in a raw and honest interview he gave with Lad TV, Ronnie B was one of his younger brothers who was not in the streets, not into gang life, not hustling, not into the dope gang, not caught up in any of the things that South Memphis streets can pull young men into. He was just a young man trying to live a regular life. And that detail right there, that fact is what made losing Ronnie B so devastating in a way that goes beyond the kind of grief most people can even conceptualize. Because when someone you love who's in the life gets killed, as devastating as that is, there's a brutal part of you that understands the environment they were operating in and the risks that come with navigating that world. But when your little brother, who made the conscious, deliberate choice to stay out of it, who looked at the streets and said, "No, this ain't for me," gets taken anyway, that is a completely different kind of wound. That cuts in a place where nothing can reach it. That's the kind of loss that makes a man question the entire concept of fairness and protection, and whether any of the sacrifices he made actually meant anything. Youngsta didn't hold back his emotions after losing Ronnie B. He went to Facebook and poured his heart out in a post that even now, years later, still hits like a truck when you actually read what he wrote. He told his brother he did everything he promised he would do. He told him he wished he was here to see it. He said he changed his life around. No more robbing, no more selling dope, that he became somebody important, that he wasn't working for food anymore, that he worked for himself. Now, think about what it takes to write something like that to a person who can't read it. This is a man who clawed his way out of poverty, who transformed himself, who became exactly who he told his little brother he was going to be, and the one person he most wanted to share all of. That was gone before he ever got the chance to stand in front of him and say, "Look, I did it. We made it." His writing a letter to a dead man about the version of himself he became. That is not just grief. That is survivor's guilt in its most raw and unfiltered form. Let that sink in for a minute, because it is easy to see rappers as larger than life. It is easy to see the videos and the jewelry and the performances and forget that underneath all of that, these are real human beings with real families and real pain. And Youngsta was feeling every single bit of it in November 2016. But the world kept moving. And for Youngsta, moving forward meant keeping Ronnie B's memory alive, channeling that pain into his music and his grind, and holding down the people who were still here with him. He carried that loss and kept pushing because that's what South Memphis raised him to do. You don't stop. You don't fall apart in public. You hold it down and you keep it moving. At least that's what he told himself. See, in Memphis, losing somebody to gun violence is unfortunately not a rare thing. But losing a brother, somebody who slept in the same house as you, who ate at the same table, who knew you before the music and before the money and before any of this, that is a specific kind of loss that stays with you at a cellular level. And what makes Youngsta's grief around Ronnie B even more layered is a guilt that comes with being the one who made it. Think about the dynamic. Youngsta's out here grinding, building, putting South Memphis on the map, his becoming somebody. And his little brother, the one who chose peace, the one who wasn't in the streets, is still back in the same neighborhood, still vulnerable to the same random violence that doesn't care about your intentions or your choices. That is a guilt that no Grammy, no platinum plaque, no amount of success can never fully quiet. And Youngsta carried it quietly while the world watched him perform and flex and move like everything was good. But here's where it gets real spicy. Because just when Youngsta seemed to be stabilizing, just when it looked like he was learning how to carry that grief and keep building, 2019 rolled around and the universe hit him with another blow that nobody on the outside saw coming. His older brother, who went by the name Heavy Champ TD, was shot and killed in Miami, Florida. And this loss had a completely different texture to it than losing Ronnie B. Because Heavy Champ TD wasn't just a brother in the biological sense. He was also a rising presence in the music world, a rapper himself, someone who was beginning to carve out his own lane in an industry that his brother had already broken into. Think about what that means and really sit with it. This wasn't just Youngsta losing a family member. He was losing a creative partner, someone who understood this world from the inside, the politics, the grind, the culture, all of it. Someone who had real dreams and was actively working to make them real. Now, the specific circumstances around Heavy Champ TD shooting in Miami are not fully documented in public records, but what is confirmed across multiple credible outlets is that he was gunned down in Miami in 2019 in a shooting. And just like that, without any warning, without any chance of goodbye, another Benson brother was gone from this world. For Youngsta, this loss landed in a different place than Ronnie B's did because this was an older brother. This was somebody who had been in his corner from the very beginning. Someone who watched him transform from a kid grinding in South Memphis with no resources into a legitimate artist with a real platform and real reach. And now that person was gone. When you lose a sibling who was also your peer in the truest sense, someone you could actually sit down with and have real conversations about life, about music, about where you both came from and where you were both trying to go. That absence leaves a mark on you that doesn't fade. There's a chair that's empty, not just at the dinner table, but in every creative space, every business conversation, every victory, every time something good happens. There's a split second where you reach for the phone to call somebody who isn't there anymore. And what makes the loss of Heavy Champ TD particularly painful from a cultural standpoint is that it happened in Miami, a city that should have represented opportunity, elevation, expansion. You go to Miami when things are going well, when your career is moving, when you're out here living the life you dreamed about when you were coming up with nothing. The fact that the violence found him there in that space sends a message that a lot of people from these environments already know in their bones. There's no safe place. There's no city you can move to, no amount of success you can stack, no distance you can put between yourself and where you came from that will fully protect the people you love from the reality they are still navigating. That lesson hit Youngsta hard, real hard, and it planted a seed of helplessness in him that would grow with every loss that followed. And this is where we start to see the pattern that nobody can ignore. 2016 Ronnie B, 2019 Heavy Champ T. Two brothers in 3 years. Both gone to gun violence. Both taken before their time. And through all of it, the world around Youngsta kept spinning like business as usual. The music industry kept demanding output. Social media kept scrolling. Fans kept expecting presence and energy. But underneath all of that noise, something was building inside of Youngsta. A weight, a heaviness, the kind of compounded grief that changes who you are at the core of yourself without you even fully realizing it's happening. The real kicker, though, he wasn't done. The universe was not finished with him yet. There was one more blow coming, and when it landed in August of 2023, it damn near broke him entirely. August 18th, 2023, South Memphis, Tennessee, 9:30 in the morning. Youngsta's youngest brother, Tom Manuel Benson, was at a BP gas station on South Parkway East, not far from Southside Park, right in the heart of their neighborhood. It was an early Friday morning, the kind of morning where Memphis is just waking up. People getting gas before work, going about regular everyday life. Nothing unusual, nothing that should have ended the way it ended. And then shots rang out from a passing vehicle. A drive by multiple rounds fired into the area around that gas station. One of those bullets found Tom Manuel. Witnesses nearby heard the gunfire, so the vehicle speeded away, and within minutes, police were surrounding the scene. Tom Manuel was rushed to Regional 1 Hospital. He was pronounced dead upon arrival. Now, let me break this down for y'all who might not be from Memphis because the location matters more than people realize. South, Parkway East. This is Youngsta's neighborhood. This is the same community he rapped about his entire career. His baby brother wasn't taken somewhere far from home or in some unfamiliar city. He was taken right there at a gas station on a Friday morning on the same streets they both grew up on together. And there is something uniquely brutal about losing a family member to the very streets you spent your whole career trying to buy your family's way out of. Because at that point, the question stops being, how do I get us out of here, and starts being whether there was ever a way out to begin with. 2 days after the shooting on August 20th, Blac Youngsta broke his silence on Instagram, and what he wrote was not the statement of a composed man. He said he loved his baby brother and told him to rest up. He said he was gone, to make the world pay, that nobody was safe, that he was standing over everybody. He said he was ready for whatever came with it, that people shouldn't feel sorry for him because he wasn't going to feel sorry for nobody, that only God knows. And then he closed by saying life will never be the same, but God got him and that he was the strongest man in the world. The strongest man in the world. Say that again slowly. That is a man who has just lost his third brother to gun violence, telling himself and the world that he is the strongest man alive. Not because he feels strong, but because he has to be. Because breaking down publicly isn't something he gets to do. Because the streets he came from taught him that grief is private and strength is mandatory. That statement wasn't bragging. That was a man talking himself into surviving another day when everything inside of him was telling him that he had nothing left to fight for. Now, what happened in the criminal investigation matters here. 2. Memphis authorities named the suspect, Randy Ewing, as a man believed to have fired the shot that killed Tom Manuel. A warrant was issued on August 28, 2023. 10 days after the murder, charging Ewing with second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted secondary murder. Police offered up to $4,000 for information leading to his capture, and as of the time this was widely reported, Ewing had not yet been apprehended. So on top of the grief, on top of the pain, Youngsta had to sit with the knowledge that the man allegedly responsible for his baby brother's death was still free. Imagine holding all of that simultaneously. The grief, the rage, the helplessness, the public eye watching everything. That combination doesn't just make you sad, it rewires you. Now, let's get into the mental toll because this is honestly the most important part of this entire conversation. You cannot look at these 3 losses separately. You have to look at them as a continuous and relentless 7-year accumulation of trauma. 2016, 2019, 2023, Ronnie B. Heavy Champ TD, Tom Manuel Benson, 3 brothers, 3 funerals, 7 years, and through every single one of them, the world kept asking Youngsta to keep performing, keep creating, keep showing up. When a person loses one loved one to violent death, the mental health community is clear. The recovery process is long, complicated, and deeply unpredictable. When 2 losses happen in close succession, grief compounds. Your mind and your body don't get the space they need to process one before the next one comes crashing in. And when the 3rd sibling is taken, when you've now stood at 3 separate caskets full, 3 people who shared your blood and your childhood and your name, something inside you shifts in a way that doesn't fully shift back. That is not regular grief anymore. That is complex trauma. That is the kind of pain that changes how you sleep, how you trust, how you see the future, and whether you believe in the future at all. This is why Youngsta went quiet. This is why the social media presence pulled back. This is why the interviews dried up. This is why fans who were used to seeing him loud, present, and unapologetically in your face started noticing something different about him. He didn't disappear because he fell off. He pulled back because some wars are fought on the inside. And you don't live stream those. Just 11 days after Tom and Earl's death, as reported by Revolt TV, he went back to the studio. On August 29th, 2023, he started working on Black Sheep 2 again. For a lot of people, going back to the studio 11 days after burying your little brother might seem too fast. But for artists from environments like Youngsta's, music is not just a product. It is a place where the chaos makes sense. It is the one tool they've always had for processing what words alone can't contain. Going back to the studio wasn't Youngsta moving on from his brother's death. It was Youngsta refusing to let his brother's death be the thing that finally stopped him, and lay it on top of all the personal grief. There's the cloud of everything surrounding young Dolph's murder that has followed Youngsta through all of this. The beef with Dolph going back to 2016. The 2017 incident where Young surrendered to police after being alleged to have been involved in a shooting targeting Dolph. Charges that were dropped in 2019. The controversy after Dolph's 2021 murder when Youngsta performed a diss track and dropped a cemetery video. And then the murder trial with Hernandez Govin, Justin Johnson, and Cornelia Smith moving through the courts while Youngsta's name kept surfacing in the cultural conversation around it. None of that was ever separate from the personal losses he was carrying. All of it was happening at the same time. All of it was piling onto a man who was already holding more than most people could manage. At the end of the day, Blac Youngsta's story is not a rap story. It's a human story about a man from South Memphis who loved his brothers more than anything, who worked his whole life trying to build something that would protect the people he came from, and who had to keep going after the streets took them one by one. Anyway, Ronnie B in 2016, Heavy Champ TD in 2019, Tom Manuel in 2023, 3 brothers, 7 years, and one man left standing who has to carry all 3 of them every single day. He said he was the strongest man in the world. Maybe that's true, but being the strongest man in the world doesn't mean the pain isn't real. It just means you keep going even when every part of you wants to stop. What are your thoughts on everything Blac Youngsta has been through and where he go from here? Do you think he'll ever fully return to the spotlight, or has this chapter of his life changed him permanently? Drop it in the comments below. Real talk only. If this video hit different for you, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. We got more coming. Until next time, fam, to stay.